Hey everyone, today I'm here with Dr. Redouane Elkamhi, the professor at the University of Toronto and chief economist of Goat Network. Now, this project is making some big moves in the BTC DeFi space. So I'm super curious to learn more about it, and today I want to ask him all the questions that I have on my mind and that you may be wondering about this innovative new project. So, Dr. Elkamhi, welcome to the show. And can you just start off about very quick overview about Goat Network, like what it is?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to describe what we do for your viewers. And in a nutshell, actually, what is the GOAT network? And I think I want to first say what is our goal and vision, and I will narrow it down to what we're doing in phase one. Our goal is basically to be a universal layer two for all L1s. That's an optimistic project. That's a little bit heroic project, and we are starting to work on that for couple of years now, but what I'm here today to talk about is more on the phase one of it, which is a BTC layer two. It's a Bitcoin layer two project. It is the first project that shares network ownership. I think what we try to deliver in this project, and hence the name, it's basically the greater flex scalability, an optimized reward, and an advanced technology that inherit the security of Bitcoin. It means that's from the GOAT come from, but it's also thriving to be the goat is also a good thing. But generally, these are in a very quick and a nutshell what goat is trying to do. Uh, Trying to build something robust, secure, and to be the go-to place for BTC holders when they want to earn something in BTC and secured in BTC. These are the things you want every user to be thinking about. I want a place that is secure, that is paying me in BTC, not in anything else, and it's have the potential to be one of the leading L2s among the many right now.
That's a great overview. Thank you so much. And I've also watched some of your other interviews before. So you actually read my mind when you explained the name Goat because I was wondering like why it's called Goat. So that did cover my question there. But one thing you say in the other interviews is that this is a market for BTCs. So is it basically like a market to lend and borrow, essentially?
No, that's one application of it. Uh, let me again, this is when you build an ecosystem, you can have multiple applications. You can have a market for which you can lend and borrow. You can have a market for which actually you can use your BTCs for a decentralized exchange. You can build this is an ecosystem that we're building. But what your question was, is it what type of application will be in the ecosystem? And you lending and borrowing is just one application among the many. Now, what I try to make these apps think about us is that we say, what is unique about us? What is unique about us is the fact that many gonna claim they are an L2, and I think the viewers may understand, or maybe I need to define it later, uh, what is an L2 and what all that stuff. But the reason is you have multiple choice to go deploy. Why come to Goat? And I am telling you that this is the only for now, the only one that have a decentralized sequencers, the only one that basically allow you to share network ownership, and is the only one that allow you to deploy all these lending protocols if you want to. We are building one among the other things, but I just want to make it clear, it's not only the lending and borrowing application. These are just
I
one
see.
application among the many that we will have actually in our ecosystem.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I think I do want to go into that point that you just touched on, which is like, what is a Bitcoin layer two, and like, why is it necessary for this purpose that you're trying to do?
Okay, this is while it sounds easier, there is many definitions, but I'm going to try to narrow it a little bit for your viewers. You may just say a Bitcoin L2 is just a protocol that is built on the top of L2. And for what purpose? Why do you build a protocol on the top of L2? Well, because we know on the top of Bitcoin, we know that Bitcoin doesn't have programmability and doesn't have scalability.
Hmm.
Now, what you try to do, you try to enhance the Bitcoin uh, ecosystem by not congested it in something that is not meant to do, but create this layer that you can do all your experiment, you can do all the things you wanted to do that is useful for the users and for the BTC holders, but now you need to code them. You mentioned the word basically DeFi, or you mentioned any word that people are, well, you can't do it in Bitcoin. People now what they do, they go and they develop the stuff for the last 2 years on Ethereum, because Ethereum was more prone to that. There is the programmability angle and everything there, but Bitcoin wasn't. And in order to scale Bitcoin and to allow it to have applications on it, you have to build a layer that is different than what Bitcoin is. And now here becomes very different among different people. Some people may say, well, is a side chain an L2? Is a state chain an L2? What is really an L2? My definition of L2 is it has to be kind of built on top of Bitcoin, try to thrive to inherit the security of Bitcoin, which means you try to make sure that finality is done on Bitcoin, and try to have an economic setting that allows you to build applications on your layer. And that's really what L2 is.
Got
Simply
it.
said, it's a secondary protocol that allows programmability and scalability. And maybe this is actually an important point here for many, because I hear many people talk about it in conferences and something, well, why do we need that and stuff like this? Because you asked, that's the second part of your question. In fact, I may claim Bitcoin need an L2 more than Ethereum need an L2, because Ethereum is already programmable by itself. Then why
Right.
do I need another layer? I need another layer in the past because the cost was too expensive and people had to build on it. But Bitcoin is not even programmable, which is actually the magic of Bitcoin. It's not a weakness. I want to clarify. It's not like a weakness of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's genius part is simplicity.
Yes.
We don't want to touch that. It means we want to make sure to build something on the top of it that can inherit whatever security it is, but we can allow this programmability and scalability on the top. And that's where the magic is, how secure it is, how user-friendly your L2 is, how much sustainable yield you're going to be able to give people when they come to L2, how and things like that and like that. I hope I
Yeah.
make it clear for your viewers so that they can understand. Just think of it as a build-in. You have a base and you build something on the top that allows you to do many smart contracts because you couldn't
Yeah.
actually do it in the beginning.
No, that's really helpful. I think a lot of my viewers are in the same position as me. So I think this already gave me a better understanding of how it looks and how it fits per se. But one of my next questions is, okay, so based on my rudimentary understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, so if you have Bitcoin on the regular network, then you send it to some, let's say, script or smart contract or whatever you want to call it, and then you can use goatBTC on the Goat network to do all the different use cases. Is that how it?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it is, so that we don't make it too much technical. In the end, basically, you can create what is, some people call it wrapped BTC, some people, you have BTC in your layer one, and you can create a mimicking instrument almost on, the analogy that I never heard anybody say is probably is in the financial system, we have something called ADRs. ADRs is just, you have a security traded in some country and you want to mimic another security traded in, and you make that security traded in somewhere else, and you just create a mimicking instrument. This is one way people actually go with it. You think of goatBTC as a mimicking instrument, a wrapped instrument, a one-to-one pegged instrument. I'm just giving you different type of thinking, but you want it to be there so that you will be able to program it. It's a little bit more than that in Goat. Is that is not only the goatBTC that's going to channel through all the applications, but it's actually something else that we're going to create based on the sequencer reward. Because your goatBTC right now is floating. I think the way the viewer should think about this is you have your BTC and you build an ecosystem on the top. That ecosystem, you want something to float to make money, because you have many apps. Just imagine it, you have many apps in that layer twos, and you have some agents, and there are some agents there that are going to make that L2 work. Those agents are sequencers, are standing there to make sure that you take whatever transactions and make those transactions work. They write them, they execute them, they order them, and those are the agents. We are telling that whatever money those agents make, you can actually share it with them as a user, because you can go and deposit your GOAT BTC on those. It means now you can see that your mimicking instrument of BTC is floating to make money and to make optimized yield in different space. And you can choose whatever agent you want to deposit with. And that's different from any other L2s. Any other L2s is almost centralized agents that are just one big agent out there standing to do all the operations. While in our case, you think about it as decentralized agent, anybody can be an agent, and you can deposit or stake or lock and any one of these agents to share whatever reward those agents are going to make. And then after doing that, you can also redo it, restake or redo it in some of the other applications there. It means the idea is not just taking BTC and making a mimicking or a picture of it and call it goatBTC. The idea is to make a picture of it that now can be able to float and to generate yield and returns, because you couldn't do that in the BTC, but now you can do it on the ecosystem that you have. I hope it's clear from a schematic things.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess I want to just dive into this point a little bit more. And can you kind of share what the main differences are between
Yeah,
goatBTC and the other forms of wrapped
yeah.
BTC out there?
Well, go to BTC, and maybe the better explanation is what is the difference between like what Goats does and other L2s too. I think that's maybe the, if we know the difference between them, we know the difference of what goatBTC would allow to do, in my view. The number one differentiator, and I think I've said this once in one of the interviews, and I think it's in a very important, how do I just to think, how do I start this? Because I want to just say, every morning I wake up, I found out there is a new L2 coming up.
Yeah,
Like
too
literally, you
many.
wake
They
up
made it
and you're gonna
like
say,
one click to launch an L2 these days.
there's an L2, there's a BTC L2, and that's, if you're in the market for a long time, you know these things. And I will just tell you, that's happened in the internet bubble. It happens everywhere, and everybody's making this calculation. And I wasn't thinking about this before I come to it, but you make me think about this. Everybody's looking at Ethereum layer twos, and they say, well, Ethereum layer two is around 70 to 80 billion dollars. That is actually sitting in L2. And they do the same calculation. Okay, Bitcoin is 1 point something trillion, Ethereum 9300. Maybe the L2 going to be around 200. If I just make 1% of it, that's 20 billion. I'm already financially free. It was great. Created the biggest project in the world. But everybody is thinking about making the 1%. And the idea is no one going to make 1% because winner take all. Usually in this type of environment, only few survive and become sustainable for a long time. There are many L2s out there that claim to be something that they are not. The second problem we have in this field, in my opinion, and the issue we try to solve, is that Goat Network is coming with this insight that to inherit Bitcoin security is going to be very costly. It's going to be super costly, even in the era of BitVM, if you want to really inherit this security. And it's going to be extremely hard for many people to survive that cost. And when we say too costly, which means the yield that the user's going to generate out of this GOAT BTC or some other wrapped BTC will be much narrow, because in that case, you're actually not allowing the ecosystem to thrive because it's too expensive to run. And people are going to have this trade-off. Do I reduce the cost by letting go security? Or I have too much security, and now in that case, I'm not going to survive to stay as an ecosystem. Goat from the day one actually have a sit-in that actually may able to us to thrive. And this is where we are unique. Like, it's not like there's another one like us. Because we have decentralized sequencers as a sit-in, and because L2 requires multiple stakeholders, and this is going to get a little bit technical, but in the L2, you have multiple agents that do multiple roles. In order to inherit the security of Bitcoin, you're going to have people that are going to approve the contract. You're going to have people that are going to verify the contract. You're going to have people that are going to execute it, publish it. And because you have a decentralized network, you can create an equilibrium that these roles can be shared and rotated across them, which becomes the cheapest way to run an L2. In a nutshell, is Goat Network is trying to build a cost-efficient way to inherit the Bitcoin L2 security. And in doing so, it's going to be able to generate sustainable yield for everybody. And one thing I can add this, if you have 0.01 BTC, you can still earn sequencer reward. You don't need to be aware. Like literally, we have a market for everyone, from small bit holders to large Bitcoin holders. And this is what our sentence come for, is like we are going to be secured by BTC for BTC holders, and we're going to earn in BTC. You don't earn in something else. It means
Yeah.
I think the biggest differentiator again is the economic model we have. And I didn't have a chance to talk about our division of security, but maybe if the question comes, because GOAT is almost like three divisions: an economic division, a technology division, which is we call ZKM, and we have been around for 2 years, and we compete with the best. We have benchmarking to show it and to prove it in terms of ZK proof, and a go market strategy. And these three divisions are actually working in tandem and work in parallel at the same time and sharing feedback to see how we can generate this cost efficient, which translate to better yield for the users and a better inheritance of the security of Bitcoin at a lower cost. Sorry if a bit too long, but
No worries. I have a lot of questions swirling in my
go ahead.
mind now. Hopefully, I can remember all of them. But my first
Go
question
ahead
is
and write them.
about these sequencers. Um, so are the sequencers essentially like block producers per se? And also, like, if someone wants to run one, like you were mentioning, is it as simple as like running a new, like spinning up a server, or like how does that work?
Yeah, good. Well, we have sequencers are agents, call them operators. And their job is, yes, they're gonna basically produce the blocks and run the protocol that we have in L2s. But they do more than that, actually. They do more than that. In fact, even the word sequencers may be a little bit misleading, because sequencers come from sequencing of transactions, which is only one role that the sequencer does. The sequencer only take all these transactions and they basically order them, and they batch them. After they batch them, they basically execute them, or they publish them, and they write them, for example, to L1 if you establish that inheritance of security. It means there are multiple roles, but just for the sake of simplicity, let's call this mega operator sequencers. Our platform, I was just writing it here, is think of them as agents. I don't know if it shows up.
It
Are
shows up, yeah.
agents with different, like you can be, and then these are, I call them agents, and they have multiple roles. And you can decide to basically go to each one of them and stake. You can decide stake will be like I'm just doing it like this. You can basically come and stake here, or stake here, or stake here. And then you can decide which one you're going to stake with to share the reward they're going to share. I mean, sequencer for us is a backbone. Decentralization gives you liveliness. And I think you are in the blockchain for a while. If you just have one entity that is doing this role, that's the biggest trick out there. And that's the common thread of the majority of L2s.
Yeah.
While we have this possibility to distribute these agents across, and these agents can be, in a sense, distinguishing themselves and competing for different stakers. And that's when you create an open market competitiveness, which create a better cost. And at the end, you create a better reward. Because today, Kevin, you come into my network and you say, I need to make some reward. I need to get some reward out of this very basic instrument. Which sequencer I go to? And you're going to have a choice. You're going to say, well, that sequencer is putting something at stake. Another sequencer may not put anything at stake, but have a better reputation. And it have managed to generate multiple reward for everybody. It means you have a choice to do it. Well, you can even do something else, Kevin. You can say, you know what? I'm going to run a sequencer. Kevin going to decide you're going to run a sequencer. And many going to do this experiment. They're going to say, look, I'm going to come and we have all the tools for you. And basically just think of it as a server. And you're basically going to be able to do this operation yourself. This mechanism that anyone will be allowed to do these things makes the other one that exists very disciplined, because if they don't share with him or with her enough reward, there is always a chance other people comes in and reap up part of this reward. While you
Exactly.
cannot do this if you have a centralized entity. If you have a centralized sequencer, you're basically doomed. In a sense, in the beginning, I'm going to show you so much returns. I create users, and after that, I'm just going to have a monopoly. I'm going to take the best out of for me, and then people will just get nothing. I
Yeah.
think we have, in my view, a very solid and a robust economic model that is based on decentralized operators, because it's a little bit
Yeah.
bigger than sequencers.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
hope I hope I explain it with the agents and hope people will remember that
It
there are
does.
multiple agents that are there.
It's a great explanation. Thank you. So the next thing that I was wondering is, okay, so I think at least for people who don't have an existing relationship with you and your team, um, they may feel a little bit, I don't know if scared is the right word, but to like send their Bitcoin to this new place in order to access the layer two. So can you talk a little bit more about security and like what kind of guarantees or things that you've done to make sure that their BTC is
Yeah,
secure?
I think it's a good leeway for us to talk about our technology division, which actually we're really proud of, which actually the backbone of the security, because at the end of the day, your question is how secure you are
Yeah.
and how secure you will be. In fact, there are two parts of your question. How secure you are today and how secure you're going to be in this world of competition, because we're in a technological world. If 2 months later, 3 months later, new technology comes in and they become way more secure than you are, then you actually lose business. And we are here for sustainable reward for the long term. The first thing I'll say is that I will let people know some of the highlights we have about our technology division. It's called ZKM, which is part of the GOAT network. ZKM is specialized, and we made this choice. Okay, this is a choice that we made for security. Okay, just for our security, we're actually making the choice that I think rollups or ZK rollups going to be the future of Bitcoin.
Okay.
Like in order to run a very secure L2, you have to avoid going to side chains in the long run when BitVM will be available and other things will be available. And you have to make a choice what type of economy you want it to run and what type of security you want to adapt. The choice we have made is we want it to be a center of excellence when it comes to ZK and when it comes to rollups in Bitcoins. And we actually so far achieving some of very good highlights. If you just focus on the security angle and forget about the economy and just like strip everything we're doing to just how secure we are, I can just tell you compared to the top 2 or top 3 companies, Risk Zero and SP1, that are developing also some of the ZKPs, zero knowledge proofs, and how do you do it on the Bitcoin, our ZK MIP, that is our intellectual property, beat Risk Zero in terms of cost and beat SP1 in terms of speed. It means, as I wanted to highlight, we are just not just taking this technologies, whatever, and put it in. We have the very, very dedicated team into becoming a center of excellence. They call, in fact, that division the House of ZK, but I
I
call it
like it.
a center of excellence on the ZK proof. It means it's a long answer to come back to guarantees and security, is to tell you that security is one of the cornerstone of what we're trying to do. We know that many L2s are going to say we are secure, but I know for a fact that either they are not actually advanced in anything in terms of inheritance, but they just say the word secure as a side chain and the bridges are not as secure as what we're trying to achieve, or, which is actually more important, which no one is talking about in any interview, is the economic costs of running a secure L2. It is not going to be sustainable because there are going to be multiple stakeholders. In fact, the idea here is, I want to make it clear for your viewers so that when they go and look at the other sphere, I'm just going to put them to imagine with me this. Just imagine it for a second. To create a secure L2, you're going to need many agents. You're going to need somebody to get the transaction. You're going to get someone to sequence it. You need someone to challenge. And the challenger cannot be the same who sequence things because you're going to get challengers. Or they have to be different. Then you cannot have centralization because now you have some teams or some codes or some smart contracts that do in one role. You have other things that do another role. You're going to have so many operators. And if you have so many operators, it's very costly to run.
Yeah.
And if it's very costly to run, you need a competitive mechanism and different roles. The second problem for your viewers, and I'm taking a bit longer because security is the backbone of everything. If the viewer doesn't understand security, they actually just they're gonna be like the ICU bubble again or another bubble again. Just like you have a lot of L2s and they all look different, the same, and just choose whatever you like. Because everybody says this. Everybody say we are a secure L2, we have a good economic model, and we're gonna inherit. Everybody say it. And I'm trying to tell people, well, let's focus on the details now. If you're going to have provers and you're going to have this and you're going to have that, how much is it going to cost to run this network? And is it really secure if you have the same party to win the challenge and to win the proven? I tell you no.
No, it's not.
No. And I think one of the things we're doing and we believe in, the last 10 years has been only thinking about security from a coding perspective. I think the next 10 years or the next 5 years is going to be on economic models. Whatever the economic sustainable model that achieves security with the lower cost, because the cost is going to be way more than it used to be because of the different agents that need to be able now to generate that security and the conflict of interest that is going to exist between them. Everybody want to be a sequencer because they can get the MEV. No one want to be a challenger, and you have to force some people to do the role they don't want to do, and that's going to create a problem. Goat is trying for a long time now to design an equilibrium economic model to run the most efficient and less costly system that allows to inherit Bitcoin security. It means I want the viewer to think these are two divisions, which is one company. I'm just trying to think of them. There is one that tried to be at the forefront, which I gave you the benchmarking with respect of only being a ZK, the house of ZK, center of excellence of ZK, and the roller economy. And one is trying to focus on, well, how can I make this the most cost efficient? And it turns out to be because of our decentralized way of looking at things, it's going to be very cost efficient compared to any sort of centralization. Sorry for a long answer.
No worries. I think you're absolutely on point that a lot of people focus on the tech too much and not enough on the economics design, which is also really important if you want your system network to be sustainable. Are there any info out there about the GOAT tokens tokenomics yet?
Yeah, there is. There is. Actually, there is. And this is, you asked a question before. You said in the past, you don't see people talking about economics. And this is, to me, one of the things I always puzzled with. Because I've been in the market now, 2015, 2014, I was the co-founder with the University of Toronto Blockchain Institute, which actually turns out to be FinTech after and changed the name to FinHub. But since 2014, and anytime I open economics, I only see one pager that tells me economics, and it's just 2%, 10%, airdrop, spies, advisors. What is economics here? These are just distribution of tokens.
Right.
This is literally just distribution of tokens. That's why I'm calling it economics is about incentive. What incentive you're trying to produce out of your GOAT token or out of any token to establish an activity in the system, like how active people is going to be. Our token economics right now in terms of distribution, I will say it stand out in only one thing is that we actually going to have, we have similar things in terms of airdrop and stuff, but I think we have a limited supply. It's 1 billion token, and it has to be limited supply also in the sense that for the proof of stake and for the generation of block, you need to know how much GOAT token is being produced each time in order for the probability to work. We have something established we didn't have a chance to talk about, which is also based on GOAT token production and the economic of it, which we call proof of activeness. As you know, one of the problem every network run into is users retention.
Exactly.
And you bring them, you drop, they take it, they go away.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not sustainable at all. What we're trying to produce, which we develop as part of GOAT token, as a part of the economic of our GOAT token, is something we call proof of activity, which you may think about it as proof of liquidity, but in steroid. If you are a user in a GOAT token, Kevin, you come today, you have a wallet today. We give you your GOAT token, you take your GOAT token, you choose one of these sequencers to deposit it so that you can generate some returns. Those guys will give you something that is called yield BTC. In a sense, now you're going to be able to generate yield off your GOAT token, okay? How I'm going to make sure that Kevin that is staying and going to different apps that we have in the ecosystem and providing liquidity and providing activity in the whole ecosystem to earn more than somebody who basically just create something, get an airdrop and go, is by creating some score. Think about it, you now going to have a score. And that score depends on how active you are in the ecosystem. And that activity will actually start rewarding you with GOAT token because you're more active than other people. It means we measure proof of activity. We use it as an incentive to be chosen as a sequencer, and we use it also in order to incentivize you to go to every place in the ecosystem. It means our token in economic is not just a distribution. Our GOAT token economic is the economic of incentivizing participation through the GOAT token.
I
And
see.
this is the things that it means it's twofold. One is just distribution, and one is designing a model that allows users to come and stay.
Yeah,
Come and
that
stay.
makes sense. That is very important. And that actually brings up a different area I want to ask about. So that has to talk, or that's about incentivizing the users. But like you said, there's going to be a whole ecosystem
Yeah,
on
yeah,
top of the Gold Network. So
yeah.
what are your plans? What are your and your team's plans in order to incentivize different projects and builders to build useful apps? Like you said, not only lending and borrowing, but a lot of different things to do on top of the
Good
Goat
question.
Network.
I think for now, I can tell you basically the other what everybody's done. You're gonna say the airdrop, the things you're gonna help. Those exist also. It all exists, but they have proven not to be very solid, and they have proven to be short-lived in many other networks. I think this proof of activity things that I just explained to you, which is a protocol that we establish, it's only I think it's going to be a game changer. Well, before even get into the complicated part, easy part is we have make it easy for anybody to come because it's EVM compatible for now. It's easier.
Okay.
It means anybody who's developing anywhere, they just come copy paste, you be able to develop. It means the cost and entry cost for you is very low. Number one. Number two, you know that, okay, you as an application, when you come to an ecosystem now, what is the cost for me to enter? And who I want to associate with and how much users it's more likely this place to be. If you recall that our native things are just, we're earning in BTC, okay? It's important.
Yes.
As I said to you, users, if they are active, not only they're trying to, if to be simplified, suppose I have an application, I don't want to name some of them. Let's say you wanted to do some prediction market, you want to play in the prediction market, or you want to go to an arbitrage opportunity, and you're going to do smart lending. The fact that you go there to earn return from there, it enhances your score in the proof of activity score. Now you're a 450 and you become 500. If you become 500 or 600 score because you're very active, it allows you. Sorry, I'm going to be a little bit longer because I know your question is on the builders, not on the users, but I want to show you it's actually connected.
Okay.
From an application point of view, they wanted the user to stay and they want them to come more often. The reason they're going to come and stay is because they have a compounded interest, not only to earn from the app, but also to show they're active. And the more active they are, the more they're going to become able to earn more from staking reward in the sequencer. It means now because of this connection in the ecosystem between the reward of sequencers and the reward of apps, that doesn't exist anywhere else. So people call ecosystem, but there's nothing connected between it. It's almost like think about an ecosystem and everybody is around. While if you have the word ecosystem, there's always gravity between planets. Do you agree?
Right.
And that
Yes.
creates the stability between planets. In order for that gravity between planets to exist, you need to create connection between different apps and connection between the agents and the apps.
Right.
The way we actually doing it at Goat is now every user is incentivized to be there, not just to be able to help to earn money from the application, but also to enhance its score for PA, and that's become like the flywheel running. It means
Right.
the apps are incentivized two ways. One, because it's an easy entry cost because it's an EVM compatible. Another one, because it's easier for them to have a retention score for their clients because now their activity in the apps is going to be compounded by extra returns in their staking activity in the sequencer. That's a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it now, based on your explanation, is that, um, like, let's say you have builders you can deploy to whatever different blockchain or EVM compatible blockchain. But obviously they want users, they want revenue, they want fees, whatever, right? So they see Goat Network and they're like, oh wow, there's this different system that incentivizes the users to be really active, to up their score and whatnot. So there's hungry
Exactly.
users, And that's why
Double
I want
reward.
to
Correct.
deploy my prediction
Thumbs up.
market app or whatever.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay,
You got it.
okay.
Because now there is a double, and that app is not helping you only in app one. That score. For example, you play in app one. You get rewards from app one, but your score is going up. When you're gonna go to app two, you're now going with a score that is high.
Yeah.
And number one, you earn in there. Number two, why that score even matter? Remember, it matters because when you're gonna stake in one of these sequencers, the likelihood for the sequencer to be chosen depend on that score too, which actually gives you more yield. It, the only reason that for people who doesn't want to get too technical, just think of it as a very tied ecosystem for which applications and agents are tied together, and they're all there. It's honestly this. I call it like it's the spirit of the blockchain that we create. It's decentralizing at its core.
Yeah.
Uh, and for once, you can tell you decentralization actually created less cost. This is going to be controversial in the space because traditionally people say centralization have less cost, which is cost of trading. But I will say in order to claim that you have uh, a security that is inherited of Bitcoin, cost going to only be achieved lower cost based on decentralization. And if you create an ecosystem that speak to each other, it's natively actually going to be there for a long term. That's if you look at our deck, the word that I really hammer the most is the word sustainable. We are not here for the short game because it's almost like going to be I expect they're going to be every day two L2s in the market. Anybody
Yeah.
who has like a computer going to create an L2. But I think the one going to survive, it's going to be a flourishing business because it's a huge market that we're tapping into. L2 is going to be a perfect experiment for Bitcoin because whatever you want to do in L2, you can do it rather than not Bitcoin. You cannot do it in L1. And I think the way we're actually going at it is inherit the spirit of Bitcoin, not just because of the centralization at its core, not just the security of Bitcoin, but
Yeah.
also the inheritance of the spirit of Bitcoin.
I like that. I like that. Okay, I have just a couple more questions before we wrap up. So, I think this has given me and hopefully our audience a much better understanding of Goat Network, what makes it special, what makes it work. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect in the future? Like, what's the roadmap? What's the main
Uh,
things on the roadmap that we should be on
Actually,
the lookout for?
the roadmap right now is what testnet is going to be in a week. It's actually now.
Okay, very
Well,
soon.
I don't know when this podcast is going to be launched, but I'll say it's.
Very soon, within the next day or two.
Then I will say this week. It's going to be this week, or let's say next week, just to be on the
Okay,
safe side.
next week. Okay,
When next week is going to be launched, and mainnet is in Q4 too, and TGE is January, February 2025. It means this is
okay,
from the broader. Uh, I want to just bring you back. The project is to create an L2 for all L1s.
okay.
What I talked about is only the phase one, which is the BTC layer two now. It means this is the test net that I talked about. The main net that I talked about is for our phase one, which is the BTC layer two that inherit to a certain extent, which we can get into the details, the Bitcoin security. And our aim is to be the go-to place for users that have BTCs from 001 to whales to earn sustainable yield in BTC. And this is really what we're trying to achieve, hopefully.
Like it. And I will say, because I have also been in this space for quite some time, not as long as you, but like 7 years so far or so. And
It's
this
a lot.
is one of the few projects that I've came across where you guys have put really deep thought into the economics side of things, where most other projects really just do not. Like you said, their tokenomics goes as far as their initial
It's true.
distribution and things like that. And they don't think about the incentive structure and how to keep things sustainable for the long haul.
It is spot on, actually. Like I'll say, like for anybody, like all these people that existed also, it's not necessary before. It wasn't really necessary. Before the L2 things, let's say if you're in 2014, 2015, 16, 18, and 20, it's not really that necessary to do so much. You know why? Because there was only two things. Alice, send Bob, Bob, send Alice. What economics you gonna need when there is only Alice and Bob? You know what I mean?
Nothing. Yeah, just a simple payment.
It's a simple payment and it's okay. It's perfect. Like gold it has become taken years, but Bitcoin now is established as a digital gold. I will say it's gold, but the digital nature has not been really well established right now, and that's what L2 is trying to do, is to make the digital nature of it even more interesting. But generally, I think to come back to the core of what you said, which is the economics, many teams are coming from the IT side only. And their understanding of economics, in my humble view, just because this is the area I spend all my life in,
Right.
it just the understanding of the economic is, yeah, it has to be cheaper, and to be cheaper, I need to buy a cheaper server. And in my view, it's the design that matters. If you design things in a way that you and me and someone else are in the market to monitor each other. I don't need to spend the cost to monitor you because I know that someone else is monitoring you. That makes the cost for me monitoring you cheaper. And in the economy well too, Kevin, it's not Alice and Bob. It's prover, it's publisher, executor, communication with L1, writing the ZK, who write the ZK proof, who's sending it, how are you going to send it, BitVM, the challenger, the OCP, I'm going on and on and on and on. They don't have the same incentives. I wish I can finish the interview. In fact, doing this for people. If you only have 1 minute and I want people to listen to this, I'll say the economics of L2 is going to be freaking expensive if you wanted to inherit the security of Bitcoin. But to do it doesn't mean you need to buy only a cheaper server. To do it, you need to be able to design your L2 in a way that is competition and distribution of roles can create the cheaper cost of monitoring and the cheaper cost of operation. And I think this is what we spend truly a lot of time on. And from what is available, I don't claim we're the only one because maybe other people are doing it without for us seeing it, but for whatever it is publicly available, I have not seen any project that actually spent time thinking about the economic part and the incentive component of this. And this is why I say this, the next decade is going to be 50% economic, 50% technology. The previous decade was 95% technology, 5% economics. And I think this is how I wanted people to see it because
I
of the
love it.
multiple agents.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a great place to end. A great high level vision and note
I
to
hope.
end on. I guess any final closing thoughts for people watching who are interested in following along? Like, what's the best place to where you want them to go?
I think first, thank you for this chance to basically be interviewed and speak a little bit about what we believe in GOAT, and mainly for people. Look, there are the websites that we have about the GOAT. They can get everything there, but I will just like simplify for people. If you are a tech person and you want to know more about GOAT and your tech, I'm telling you, go to the ZKM, and there are 2 working papers. One on the ZK proof, ZK MIP, one on the entangled rollup. And you want to know what is developed within GOAT right now, there is also the 3rd white paper. We're talking about 3 white paper because these are in phases. If you don't have any time and you just have like few hours to spend, go to the GOAT network and focus only on the 1 white paper, which is basically the GOAT white paper. That's one. If you just have few hours to spend. If you are an economic person that try to understand the economy too, we have an economic paper too. It's pretty long right now, but we're going to shorten it. It's around 40 pages. Sorry about that, but that's what you will focus on. It means our website of GOAT, our division ZKM, gonna have enough ample for all of you. I just want to distinguish it from a hardcore security. Go to the ZKM or go to the GOAT white paper. If you're an economic person, goes to what we call the beige paper, economic paper, to understand only about the economy. And for that one, we didn't talk much about incentives and conflict of interest. We're focusing more about what type of product, what type of yield, and how are we going to be able to generate sustainable yield for a long term in BTC, for BTC, secured by BTC.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Great
very
to chat
much. I
with you.
appreciate it.